Okay. All right. So I've shared some pictures and I want to um, do these sh pencil shading exercises. Uh, so I'll give you a little idea of how you can practice proportion and also um, studying what is called tonal contrasts. Here in the pictures that I've shared right now, we have a dark and a light shade that has been blocked. So in many many designs or many art forms, you will find the word blocking being used. So block just means that you have cordoned off an area and said, okay, I'm going to do something here. It could be a pattern, it could be just color, it could be shading. So this is like blocking. And when you place certain blocks or juxtapose them, they will form another part of the illustration or the whole illustration. And then you can go into that deeper. Now with faces, what happens is each feature has its own identity, its own lines and its own structure. But often what happens is that we might be able to do the features independently. Putting them all together often is a problem just because of proportioning. The proportion of the feature itself, in sometimes like the eyes, you have the two eyes being the same proportion or relative proportion. Sometimes when the face is looking sideways, one eye is narrower, the other eye is wider. That can be a problem. With respect to the eyes, the nose, mouth, hairline, all of that sometimes does not fit in. Now, every time you're doing sketching, if you are going to make each feature in detail, it causes a loss of time. So the first part of the exercise today we are going to do is just blocking out an area where you said this is more or less where the eye is going to be. With respect to that, nose, mouth, face, all of that is going to be like that. And then you start noticing whether your proportions, placement, distances are looking believable. It's all about creating an illusion, and is your illusion on track. Little by little, what will happen is those blocks will become ingrained. So when you look at a face that you have to translate, you will already start seeing the face in block form. And you say, okay, this is one part, this is another part, and I have to draw the third part here. And you can distribute space more effectively and more accurately. That's the idea behind this exercise. So I'm going to show you how to go about it, and then we'll just practice this. Now, again, for this exercise, I'm going to ask you to avoid using an eraser. If you think you make a mistake, just move on. You can start off with lighter lines and shades till you're comfortable, and then you start making some of the lines and areas darker, and then move forward. Okay, so I'll just share these images first. So here you've got mostly dark and medium dark tone, and then you have a little bit of a light tone, and then there is nothing happening in certain places where there is a highlight. So we start off with just noticing the outer shape. How tall is it versus how wide it is, what kind of angles we have, and start blocking this with a medium shade, and then we darken it as we go along. So you don't have to darken all of it in one shot. Here again, it's the same thing. You can begin off with medium lines and shades. And also, now these are made in probably digitally. So you can see that the brush is very evenly textured. It's probably a charcoal brush that has been used. I don't know if it is non-digital. I can't really tell. Sometimes there are smudges around that indicate that it is not a digital file, like something like this. There is a certain organicness to the line, so you know that this is not a digital picture, can you see the smudges of the graphite along the edges? So this is made by hand. This is again made by hand, or it's a superimposed image that somebody's played with. Here again, this looks like it has been done by hand. And this one again, it's too clean, but still I can see a little bit of the grain of the paper. Okay, so now look at this picture and now look at this picture. There are hardly any smudges. So this looks digital, but nonetheless, the reason I'm saying the distinguishing factor over here is that if I go very close to the corner of his mouth, you will see a brush stroke that is almost like 4 or 5 lines made together, almost like a brush and not like a pencil or a graphite pencil. So it will look, our picture is going to look different from this picture. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this first one, and we're not going to make it too large. It's just going to be a tiny size, manageable for us. Now again, if as far as possible, try and look at this image and your book in the same plane. So if you're watching the picture on screen, keep your book at an angle, sit back in your chair and observe the picture so that you don't have to move your eyes down and up, but they're just in the same plane. So whether it is vertical in the same plane or horizontal in the same plane, because that helps you adjust to and understand spaces much better. One second, I need to move my. So any sketch should ideally start off with something like this. You start, this is also part of the blocking. You start building in shapes and with just lines. So your hand has to be very free. So now in this case, Archana, I normally see that when you're drawing, you hold the pencil very close and are drawing much shorter lines. But today, try and draw a line that is a lot freer. So your fingers are moving more and the pencil can be in contact with the paper at all times. Now, each of the little nuances of the line are also important. It's not enough to just make a shape. Like in this case, as far as the nose is concerned, the shape is uneven. Then there's a little bit of a dip, and then the line goes to the side, and then it comes down. And within this also, you can see some dark patches, which will look like the nostril and a sharp edge. So this whole thing needs to be depicted like this. And then you can make it slightly darker in a few places. This line comes straight down. And then you can build the mouth. Each tiny line makes a difference. So look at each line and say, okay, what angle and how far do I have to make it for every line? That's the practice we need. And if you have, I'm going to go and sharpen my pencil even more. So if you have a cutter, try and sharpen your pencil to this long of which your lead should be about this height, because it's a much better sketching pencil than something like this. Just helps you see your work better and even shade much better. Okay, I'm just going to go and do that. Give me 5 minutes, I'll be back. Okay, here's, I've come up with my pencil now. This is how I've sharpened it. So what I also do is when I sharpen it, I don't throw away the lead, the sharpened lead, the shavings. I throw away this part, of course, but this part I've kept in a little dippy, which I can then use as powder. So I'm going to show you how to use that also in a bit after we finish this. So somehow with a very narrow pencil, you you get to see more of the paper than when you do this. So certain details are more visible. Now, when you also do this in a like a medium shade, not too dark, then you can make corrections without having to rely on an eraser. Like in this case, the top of my lips, it started just a millimeter and a half lower than I think they are, but I could make those corrections. Now, even the other lines that we make, they are brief lines, but I would encourage you to recreate this slowly. The though the picture looks like it has been made very swiftly, I like to believe that you can recreate things with fewer strokes, but not necessarily fast. So a brief illustration does not necessarily mean that it has to be done in a fraction of the time. At some point, you will be able to do it in a fraction of time, but not in the beginning, because right now we are trying to observe and embed. Now, when you're shading, if you can see the direction of the lines, that's great. If you can't, just go by instinct. As long as you have darkened that area one way or another, that should be sufficient. In order to get your distances right, also there is a chance that if you move from the nose to the mouth, because they're just a single item, one below the other, and then draw in the cheekbones so that you know how tall you need to go to come to the eyes. Then it's like placing stepping stones in the water, and then you just go over one stone and then the other stone and the other stone. It's better for estimation of distances. Now, often my noses turn out to be much longer. I start the drawing much, I mean, the eyes are fine. And then when it comes to the nose, this distance always is more than I would like. So we want to pay attention to the entire shape. Like over here, the shape of the made by the eye socket, starting from the shape of the eyebrow with a little bit of highlight in this section. So you don't shade that. And then you shade the rest, and there's a little smudge over here. And there's also a little bit of a smudge on this side to indicate the lashes. Now, do you see how far I have taken this shadow of the cheekbones, and the eyes stop right here? There is a highlight over here, and the cheekbones are right below the lashes. So my estimation of her cheek has gone a few millimeters beyond the face. But because I made the shadow in a medium tone, I can bring it back in. So not too much damage done there. Are you getting it?
Yeah, I think so, somewhat.
Somewhat? Okay, fine. Okay, good. If there are problems, let me just highlight some things that might be an issue. And if they are, keep an eye and tell me if that is the case, and I can help solve it. So one is that as you proceed, you get lost in all these shadows and shapes. That can happen. There is another tonal variation within even the dark shades, and the edges of those may not be very clearly visible. So it gets a little confusing. If that is happening, let me know. And because there aren't any details, you might find yourself second guessing. So in the boundary of a particular shape, like in this case, now I'm drawing the highlight on the chin. So how do you know where that stops, and how do you differentiate between the chin and then the neck? If that is happening, if you find yourself confused, so at any point, if it says, okay, now I'm here, but I don't know if I'm doing this right or how it's going to turn out, then let me know. And of course, if there's anything that I've not thought of, just inform me that you might feel a certain anxiety at a particular spot. That's the spot where you need to stop and evaluate. At this stage, I feel fairly confident of the lines that I've made. So I can now start darkening certain areas. Within the eye socket, you'll notice that there is a dark shade just in the center. If you notice it, then you make it. If you don't notice it, don't make it at all.
Aditi, whatever I've done up to now, I've just sent.
Okay,
Send it
let
to-
me have a look. Okay, this is good. So you've got the nose and mouth quite nice. There is a little more just above the nostril part. I think you can extend that shadow a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. The you can have more tones. So right now if you had like a light, medium, medium dark and dark. If these were the tones, then you've got the medium and I guess medium light.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can do lighter and you can
Mhm.
do medium dark and darker also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see if now that you've blocked out some parts of the face, can there be some things like this over here? There is no gap between the eyebrows, but for some
Yes.
reason there is a gap over there. So fill that up now.
Yeah.
Go feature by feature and see what you can change or what you can extend. Now, another part that I noticed, Chitra, when you're making those lines is um, when you are shading. So if I have a block like that, when you're shading in the block, your your pencil needs to move across the block in such a way that say you're shading line by line, each line, don't roll the pencil because then you hit the edge, one edge to the paper, one edge of the pencil to the paper, and that can cause lines to appear. So this is what happens normally, which when we don't have too much control over the shading bit. What we want is something like this. Now, what two ways of approaching. One is the fact that your pencil should land like a plane that is just touching and then taking off. So you do not see any edges.
Like the eyebrow, sorry,
Correct.
eyelashes. Okay.
Exactly. And the second thing is you can make the same with the flattened edge of a pencil
Mhm.
right next to each other. So
Mhm.
I'm still making lines, but I manage the pressure, the direction, and also the part of the pencil that makes contact with paper so that it starts becoming wider and wider and wider.
Yeah.
And lines come next to each other.
Right.
In the event that you do want lines. Even in that case, making these lines is better than making these lines.
Okay. Right.
Other thing also to watch out for is making these zigzag shading, because
Mm.
in this also sometimes we go over the end part of the line and that becomes darker. This is
Right.
all these are valid textures. Some places you want them, some places you need to avoid them. You just
Yeah.
need to develop the range. In a picture like this, you want more fine texturing. So you have to, you either rub your pencil like this.
Mm.
That is fairly easy to do, where you have to just modulate pressure. But if you want
Mm.
to create texture, then you
Yeah.
need to be a little more attentive to what your pencil is doing.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not shading the neck deliberately because I want to just focus on the face. Okay, shall we move to the next one? Do you still need some time for this? You can take time. Huh? I don't want to rush.
Maybe 5 minutes.
All right. Okay.
I'm ready to go to the next one.
Yeah, okay, good.
Archana.
Okay. So, Archana, do you want to spend more time in this, or should we move on?
We can move on, Aditi.
All right, okay. So the next one we can try to make is one which has a few more features. But you know what? I'm gonna actually do something different. Now this is the a second exercise that we will do. I'm sharing pictures which are upside down, and I don't want you to turn them right side up. So what I want you to do is try and recreate these portraits, but upside down. So we will start with in such a way that the picture looks upside down with your mouth, nose, eyes, like that. So don't turn it right side up. And if you may recognize a few faces also, that's perfectly fine. But you will not see them for how we normally see faces. So you might temporarily find yourself a little confused, but go ahead with making this kind of blocking of areas and then add detailing. But before we go there, I just want to show you one artist's work who has done something similar to what we're doing, but he does this with charcoal, at least the first part. And I'll look for some more videos. Share screen. Okay, so he's going to be making an illustration with charcoal. And the first part is how he blocks the area. So he just applies a whole lot of charcoal, and then with this tool, he is blocking the nose, eyes, and the mouth. So before he starts using the eraser, that is the part that we have done, blocking the dark parts. And now he's using eraser like a negative pencil. And he's created some white lines in the charcoal. And this of course just his treatment. I'm going to look for some more videos, but that is the kind of blocking that I'm speaking about. So let me just start you off first, and then you can begin. Just give me a minute. I'm going to change my orientation again. Okay, so when you have an upside down picture, the question is whether you start from what seem to be the eyes or whether you start from the nose or mouth or whatever. I would say start from top down. Again, don't make the illustration too large, but the blocking helps in the sense that, say, if this is my face, I'm making the third face here. Start off with making these lines. Give yourself some orientation of how the nose is laid out, where you might have the eyes at what angle, because this is a good starting point and pretty close to what we've done over here on the first image. All shapes look very odd, but if you think about it, you can theoretically make any shape, whether it is a right side up picture or a upside down image. And the blocking method helps in very lightly figuring out whether you're getting the proportions right. And from there, you can start building the features, which are also nothing but shapes. And that is the practice we need to do. The upside down image helps us to distill our observation into just shapes. So I measure from the laugh line, how high do I have to come or how low do I have to come to make the eye. And that's how I get my shapes. My distance is my proportion. Now the challenge again is through the image, do not turn, through the exercise, do not turn the image upside down or right side up. It's not going to help you in any way by turning the image right side up. It's almost as if you are making if you're looking for a recipe of cake and you think you can get any clues from looking for the recipe of French toast. They're two completely different things. Though it is the same face, it is, once you turn it upside down, it's a different subject altogether. So it needs to be treated as that. Now here again, I'm shading in the internal areas. I still don't have an idea about the external edge of the face. I think my angle has become too much. And then based on that, where does my forehead come? Something like this. All right.
Mm.
Okay. Do you want to start?
Okay.
Okay. Now, for this exercise, you also need to bring out your sense of humor, which I think both of you have in plenty, because there's no telling how this is going to turn out. It's surprising how many times I've come across people who are so serious when they're doing art, especially with adults. A few kids also, they're an aberration. Most kids still know how to have fun with art, and that art is supposed to be fun. But I have a couple of students who are so anxious that part of my class is about quelling that anxiety. And I'm glad that they've chosen art rather than some kind of adventure sport to address their anxiety issues.
Aditi, can you hear the background noise?
No, what is this?
No, I opened my window, so there are traffic going on, a lot of vehicles. So I was just trying to check with you, like, can you hear the background sound or like?
No, no, not at all. I wouldn't have even known.
Mm,
I didn't hear any change also in the sound volume.
I got a new laptop, so I see like it's a soundproof
Oh,
and
Wow.
it's office laptop.
very nice. What brand is it?
It's a Mac laptop,
Very cool.
MacBook.
MacBook.
MacBook Pro, huh?
Yeah.
Very
So
nice.
I opened my window and there is a lot of vehicles going on. I can hear a lot of noise.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I see. Can barely.
Chitra, are you able to make those lines smoother?
Well, I'm trying, but old habits die hard, so I have
Okay,
to
just try one.
consciously keep.
How are you holding your pencil? Are you holding it close and upright, or are you holding it a little far away and sideways?
Something like this.
Yeah, take it even behind, even further behind.
Okay.
Because even if you're using a pencil like this, sharpened like that,
Yeah.
when you hold it upright, you have the chances of getting a sharp edge and higher pressure are
Mm-mm.
more. But if you hold this pencil far away, it
Mm.
flattens out automatically.
Okay.
You can you can't put too much pressure
Yeah, yeah.
right in the beginning. So, as initial practice, it might help to just start making lines by holding the pencil far away. And
Yeah.
soon enough, you will start getting the motion. Then it doesn't
Okay.
matter where you hold the pencil eventually.
Okay.
Mm. So initially, if you can even do pages and pages of just shading of blocks like that to get
Mhm.
that smooth line, that is also a totally worthwhile exercise. So things like this, you make,
Little squares and
yeah, make little
okay.
squares. And sometimes, the making of the squares and all is very boring. So make it into some kind of design and
Mm.
then try shading. Uh, this is a very meditative exercise actually. So here I've used the lightest pressure that I can use. Then I'm going to increase pressure to medium. So you have pressure and you have direction of line and you can't move the line, move the pencil or rotate it. And then you have the darkest. So in art school, I have come across, even design colleges, I've come across several compositions that they make using just squares, like pixelated illustrations. If
Mm.
I find a resource for that, I'll show it, I'll share it with you. Or you can just make a whole block, a whole page, even an A5 page of lines. Line practice is also very good. And then you practice the shading. I think just even by the end of the day, if you practice it for from morning to evening, just trying to fill in those blocks, you will develop a much easier hand, a much lighter hand, because the process of sketching or shading is so tedious and cumbersome that when you do a lot of it, you develop an ease of holding the pencil. And that ease allows you to shade with the right grip, with the right pressure, or very organically, very automatically.
Okay.
But that just means that you need to spend more time with the pencil shading
Mm.
or drawing those lines.
Mm.
It's like the proficiency. Like I often love to watch these videos of people who are, like the other day I was watching a video of this whole line of farmers in a
Mhm.
field, like what looked like a rice field. It was a very, the grass was still up here, so these farmers were on top, and there were several of them, and this is probably in some place in Southeast Asia because they had these kind of cabs, and all of them were passing, or their only job was to take something from somebody on their right and pass it to the person on their left. And there was a chain of maybe about 15, 20 of these that came around the back of a truck and into the truck. So, not even the back actually, it came right up to the edge. And then somebody, you couldn't see the last person in line, and he would toss up something to a guy who is, or a lady who's sitting on the truck. And that person would then like catch it and hand it over to the next person. This was all they had to do. So this was the mechanical action that they had
Mhm.
to do. And the person on top and the person so it turns out that they were handing over pineapples. So they had to wear gloves. Pineapples are not really easy to handle. So they're holding gloves and they are passing, and then a second last person had to catch it in one hand, take it into the other, and give it to the person next to them. And the person next to them was taking that pineapple and stacking it. So they had to move from place to place. So it wasn't just a simple action.
Mhm.
Now it looked so beautiful, that whole action, almost like it's one machine, it's a caterpillar. And I often find that you see this in people who have to do a repeated action. Like you might have people who stack plates, a jeweler who has to keep tapping on a small piece of metal to either flatten it or convert it. Best is if they have to keep moving both hands in different directions. Sometimes if your right hand is moving, your left hand is also moving. Or sometimes if your right hand is tapping, then your left hand also moves like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Rarely the case that you can do something like that. So these actions look very impossible and also very smooth. There's a certain
Rhythm to it.
yeah, rhythm, there's an ease, they know the pressure. So that is something that just comes as muscle memory. Have begun to believe that it's not just what we register that becomes learning. There are so many things that happen that only the muscles learn. The brain is not even
Yeah.
involved beyond holding the pencil, and those muscles need that training. You cannot think yourself into that training like most other things. When it comes to tactile learning, it only comes to the muscles, and you have to be happy with that. And one day your brain just says, okay, fine, looks like I got it. That's,
Right.
that's all that I have experienced. And so all that you can do also is that expand that practice and say, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. And as far as the brain is concerned, that expansion takes place by giving yourself a variety of things to do. Because according to your temperament, there are some people who are extremely tenacious and they'll just take one thing and for a whole month they will do that one thing. I'm not that kind of person. I need variety. I don't have that kind of tenacity. I'll have the tenacity for pencil sketching, but I may not want to do one copper vessel for a whole month. That is something that I might find boring. So I would prefer that, okay, today I do copper, maybe a whole week I'll do it, then tomorrow I'll move to stainless steel, then the next week I will move to four faces, not just one, because I like to pace that up. Okay, so you can find your own uh, subjects and do the action of sketching, but don't expect to intellectually say, okay, now I'm getting the line. You just do the action.
Right.
So there was a time that I was addicted to pencil sketching. Okay, I just loved it so much. And I must say, honestly, it was a very, very frustrating exercise because I was trying to figure out a lot of things by myself. And often the solutions were not forthcoming. Then later on, I would look at artists' work and say, "Arey, this is so much easier." Oh, another thing is, in this sketch, you can use the eraser. Huh? I forgot to tell you. This you will need.
I think so.
Basically, in portraiture, you do need an eraser, any kind of portraiture. The earlier one, because I wanted us to go through the exercise of building or blocking, the eraser would not have really helped. But in this case, now even I feel now I know I need the eraser. Over here, for the eyes, I'm tempted to first make the eyebrow and the eye socket, not the shape of the eye.
Okay, just whatever I've got up to now, I just sent.
Yeah, yeah. I'll just see. 1 second. Huh? Oh, nice. Not bad, not bad. Very good proportions. It is a bit of a challenge, no?
Yeah, I'm sure if I turn it around, it's going to look different.
Of course, it will look different. But don't do it right now.
I won't.
We'll all turn our pictures around. So when I do this in a class, it's a little difficult. Well, I guess it's easier in a class than in an online session.
Mm.
But there's always those backbencher types, which I absolutely hate because I was never a backbencher myself, who will first turn it around. I don't know what sense of achievement the backbenchers have always felt doing something that they were meant not to do. And also when I'm distributing the papers, I tell them before that I'm going to give this to you upside down, and that is meant to be the way it is. Don't touch the paper. And most often they do, and then I don't know whether they regret it or all, because it corrupts your observation. Because now when you turn it upside down or right side up, it gives you another piece of information that's useless for you in recreating this picture upside down. So it's more about the about tricking the brain. And our brain is an extremely efficient machine that does a lot of things, especially regarding faces or facial recognition, so well and so subliminally. These are, again, one of those involuntary things that we learn. We don't even realize we've learned it, and we depend heavily on it. So when you turn it right side up, you kick in that part of the brain, which I'm sure there's a very nice technical term for it, and someday I'll find out. But that is the more, that's like a survival instinct brain that we have. And the moment it has information about who this person is, you will start seeing the information differently. And that can affect the end result of this exercise. Where his beard is coming, I'm deliberately using a very textural line. I'm not making it too fine because I want to create the hairy texture. Even for that, you'll notice that towards the top edge of the picture, that's the bottom of the beard, it does have a darker, sharper edge. And there's a particular shape to that silhouette. That is what I will try to recreate. Okay, time is almost up. How much time do you think we'll
Hmm.
need? Because I have the time. I'm just worried for both of you. Archana, especially if she's going to fall asleep.
Hmm.
I'm good now.
You're good? Were you falling
Yes,
asleep
my
early?
voice keeps changing the moment. So last entire week I was sick. I was not
Oh,
feeling. I got suddenly there is a change in temperature, so I did not switch on the AC.
oh,
So and it went up to like 30 degrees, and then I thought like let me open the windows and then sleep. So next day morning I got cold and cough and fever.
oh, yeah.
Oh.
Here it is difficult to like find a doctor and get the medicine and everything. So I got something over the counter, and it took almost like a week time to recover.
My God.
Hmm.
So I was thinking it was something with COVID or something, but
Huh.
I noticed it was due to cold weather.
Yeah, must be change of season
Yeah,
flu.
change of season. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, that happens to me also all the time. But have you gone and checked with the doctor any case?
No, Aditi.
Acha.
Problem here is I try to like look for a family doctor, but I still did not find anyone.
Okay.
So usually it's like I go to a pharmacist.
Huh.
They give us something over the counter, and it's like we can select whatever we want. It's like
Oh,
that.
really? You don't
So
need
they,
prescription?
even like doctors, I never felt comfortable. Even like if I went for anything, they
Uh,
usually search in Google, and then they find. They ask me like, which one would you like to take?
what?
This. Uh, I was like so surprised at times, like why it's not
Huh.
worth to go to a doctor also.
My God, that's so strange. How would you know what is a good medication? Or are you supposed to know? Is this also
It's
one of
not
Like
like
if you're
that. So
allergic to something or
yeah.
you've taken it
that,
before
that,
and
that,
then you
that
don't want.
that's the different case. But I see like see in India we have a lot of doctors who are like experienced. Maybe because we go very often. I
Hmm.
think I got this fever and cold after like when I came here. Like only when I travel I get that. Otherwise I don't get
Huh.
this fever. I hardly got any fever all
Huh.
the time. So maybe we'll be more cautious because we don't have doctors here, proper doctors.
Maybe. That's so strange. But anyway, I think Canada, the laws with medication are a lot more relaxed than the US, no?
Mm, they say that.
You're not experienced it.
I am not experienced it. Yeah.
Well, then that's a good thing, actually, then if you've not had to experience it. Wouldn't want it the other way.
But otherwise also like I never found these doctors are like giving us proper medication.
My God.
And even like I have friends who have been suffering from iron deficiency,
Mm-hmm.
and they still did not recover even though like getting all treatment
Mm.
don't know the actual reason, but so general physician will only give us some medicine, but if you're like seriously ill or something, they
Mm-hmm.
will suggest for a specialist,
Yeah.
and the specialist will be available based on their schedule.
Yeah.
So it can take months also
Hmm.
to get a specialist appointment.
Yeah.
So when I came to India, right,
Mm-hmm.
at that I have done a complete body checkup.
Yeah.
And I told you, right, I got that endoscopy done for my leg.
Right, right. Mm.
So all the time I was actually sick because of that.
Mm. In India, when you visited?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
for the endoscopy. But he gets done.
yeah.
I can see that my nose has become a little crooked here. But okay, nothing I can do about it now. Okay, shall we flip over?
Okay.
Right? Oh my God, look at how much his nose is
Oh,
spread.
oh my God.
Oh, yo.
I have to like take a picture.
Oh, he looks terrible.
I just have this problem. This part is fine. This part is fine. But this estimation goes totally wrong.
This is so funny too. I like the reverse one much more than what I did now. I like this part a lot.
Ah, yeah.
Than the other one. So maybe I should.
Yeah. So, Archana, in your case also, your hand is still very, uh, it needs more. Just enough, I need to put some oil in your wrists. That's how I feel. It's a little static. So, whenever you get a chance, sketch something, just whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a face, it could be an object, something, some sketching, or just pencil yoga every day, 15 minutes. Give you much better mobility. But it's nice.
Yeah, I liked it. This is the
My God. Amazing.
So when I did this exercise first in college, just as a disclaimer, I tried this exercise in the year, I think 98 with my students. And the reason I thought this up was because I did this for myself also. I used to do a lot of portraiture in 92, 93, no, actually 89 to 93. And then 94, I was in college. I was teaching art in a college. And when I was studying for myself, I realized fairly organically that this could be an interesting challenge to take up. For some reason, I kept pushing myself with pencil sketching. Now, first, I would try drawing just the eyes, then just the nose, just the mouth. Then I just built in a few levels of difficulty, like drawing without using an eraser at all. The moment you up the game or give yourself a challenge, then you also find different ways to do stuff. Otherwise, you just follow doing the same thing. So upside down illustration was something that I thought of at that time. And I've come across this book, which is called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. It's a very popular book. And one of the things that she has recommended is drawing upside down. Now, I hate the fact that I did not write down my technique before reading the book, but I came to this all by myself. My purpose is different. So I didn't even, the moment I saw the book, I shut it. I said, I don't want to know why she's doing it. But as far as I'm concerned, the reason for this is because we see faces as people we recognize and we get lost in that. So when I did this exercise with my students first, they said, this is ridiculous. Nobody can make a face upside down that'll look as good or better than the face that is right side up. That was their argument. So we took it up as a challenge. I said, let's try it. One face you do upside down and one face you do right side up. Now there's no cheating over here. You cannot cheat. So they tried this, and I think 100% of the time in that class of maybe 16, 17 kids, 100% observation was that their upside down picture was better than their right side up. And that I didn't know that that would be the result. I was as open to the experiment as they were. And then later on, I thought about this when I realized, and also I read up a little bit upon it. What happens is that when you see a face, you see differently, you see things differently, and your brain evaluates all the parameters that you need for illustration differently when you see a face right side up. When you see it upside down, the brain is very confused because it's in like a loop. It's trying to recognize who the face is. You may even recognize it, but it is trying to autocorrect. It's trying to see it upside up. And it is almost as if it's suddenly suspended. It is not actively engaged in observation anymore, as much as it goes into some kind of like a cognitive action. And we take advantage of that suspension to observe more acutely and try drawing shapes and gauging distances very objectively. So that is the reason why the upside down pictures often turn out much better than you expect. That's one. And definitely better than the right side up picture in most cases. So during the week now, I'm going to ask you to take this up as a challenge. Take one picture, do it right side up, do it upside down. You can leave a gap of some time between the two if you want. You can choose whichever one you want to make before. I would recommend doing the upside down before the right side up, because once you turn it right side up, you've seen the image, and select whatever, either use the images that I've sent right now without turning them around, or select whichever image you want, turn it upside down, wait a little while after you've done this, the seeing the image and turning it upside down. When you sit to sketch, you should not see it right side up at all. Okay. And do give me the result. I'm very curious to know which one turns out better.
Okay,
Yeah.
will do.
Okay, so next week we will start with some native arts. And like I said, I've opened it up if there's something that you would like to do. Now, these are not our traditional Indian arts, because there's so much information available about those. But I want to explore some arts from different countries. So if there is something that you've come across that is very interesting, for the last week, I don't still have, I know what 3 things that I'm going to do. One is going to be the Native American art of the Pacific Northwest, then Mexican and Aborigine art from Australia. So these are the 3 that I am going to do definitely, but something for the last week I don't have yet. I could do something that's African or even South American, but if you have any ideas, please share. Then that'll give me some time to read up and study something about it.
I recently saw something. So when I came to Pune, I got some that iron, the African ladies who actually have this long neck. I was just studying about them. One of my like friends said that it's actually a really they actually have this rings on their neck which
Yes.
make its neck so long. So I felt so like how can someone wear that for a long time?
Yeah,
And
I think they're in Southeast Asia somewhere, or in the Pacific. They,
Africa, I guess, somewhere in
no,
Nigeria.
so Africa has got this, they put a disc in the chin thing, or is that, no, that's also somewhere else. But if you have those pictures, please share, because I didn't know of a culture in Africa that extends the neck. I know of the Asian culture. I'll share that. But
So
let's there
and there is another one in China where they have that shoes where they have this, you
small,
know, right?
yeah, foot binding.
Feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy
So
thing.
are you like looking, what can you share any kind of reference what you're exactly looking for? Or
Uh,
you
no, it's just visual arts. So like with African stuff, you have a lot of these African prints, which are very interesting to recreate. With Aborigine art, it is more about the technique of art, even with the Pacific Northwest, how they depict pictures, how motifs are recreated. But if if you've not come across anything, don't bother studying these three, because I will be doing the study myself. I mean, you're free to, you can also contribute. But if there's anything else that you've already come across and that you're curious about, it could be anything. It could be sculpture, it could be a craft, and then we can go back with that and see what else we can find, which falls under the visual art category.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I will see
Right.
you next week then. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Aditi. Bye, Archana.
Bye, Chitra.